The Switch 2 has arrived, but that doesn't mean the original Switch is old news just yet. I know a lot of you viewers, even if you plan on upgrading eventually, still might not for several months or years. So what are you to play in the meantime? And new Switch 2 owners who didn't own an original Switch. Lucky for you, the Switch 2 can play basically all original Switch games, and there are quite a few gems there for you to experience. So this video is for both of you, Switch 2 owners looking for something other than Mario Kart to play during this launch window, and original Switch owners looking to get the most out of your system before moving on. I present to you my top 15 Nintendo Switch game recommendations. Whether it's a port, a multi-platform release, or a Switch exclusive, I do not care so long as it's available. Most of these are games I have played personally on the Switch, though a few I've played on PC, but still should be a decent experience on the Switch regardless. The one line I am drawing is that I'm not including any games available through the NSO service, so none of those like NES or N64 or SNES games that you can just have via subscription. Additionally, this is of course a list based heavily on my own experiences with the system. If there's an amazing game that I've left off, it's probably because I haven't played it. I do not guarantee this is the 15 best games on Switch, but these are 15 very good games that I do highly recommend. Just barely making the list, we've got Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, one of the more ambitious entries in the Pokémon series in recent years. This is the first truly open-world mainline set of Pokémon games, and they're a joy to play. It was high time that this series unshackled us from the routes it had become accustomed to and let us truly go out and forge our own adventures in the Pokémon world's wilderness. It's a well-needed shake-up for a series that had arguably gotten a bit stale, but is still a good entry point for new players, as evidenced by me, since this was my first mainline Pokémon game I've played. Now, it didn't perform the greatest on the original Switch, but apparently it's supposed to run better on Switch 2, so if you've got that system, maybe give this unassuming Pokémon game a chance. Okay, I'm gonna make some people angry with this one. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate hardly needs an introduction. It's the biggest, most ambitious, and arguably just flat-out definitive Super Smash Bros. Game. And quite frankly, a Smash Bros. Game is a sensible addition to nearly every Nintendo console owner's library. They're fighting games that don't require hours upon hours of practice to start playing remotely competently at. They're a celebration of Nintendo and ever-increasingly video game history in general. And they honestly straddle the line between skill and luck better than almost any other Nintendo multiplayer series. And Ultimate fulfills all of those traits to a T. So why only rank it at number 14? Put simply, I think this game is truly the ultimate capstone of this prior 2-decade era of Smash Bros. Games. But in the process of stuffing this game with so much content from previous entries, it's conspicuously short on truly original content to call its own. And for that reason, I just don't detect the same soul in this game as the other entries in the series. It is arguably the best, but only because it stands on the shoulders of giants. Super Mario Odyssey is the Switch's big 3D Mario game, and it does not disappoint. After the 2D, 3D hybrid design of Super Mario 3D World, Odyssey was seen by many as a return to form. And yes, the first playthrough of this game especially invokes a magic to it that can enthrall you the whole way through. But for me, this game doesn't quite reach the heights of many of its predecessors. Scattering power moons all over the place serves to make for a fun, explorative experience, sure, but no Odyssey moon is ever going to be remembered as fondly as the best missions from Super Mario 64 or Sunshine or Galaxy. Nevertheless, this is the quintessential Mario experience on Switch, and you'd be a fool to pass it up. Luigi just edges out his brother's flagship game with Luigi's Mansion 3, one of the most charming adventure games on the system. Exploring the floors of this hotel is always a delight, with fun and inventive set pieces around every corner. And has some wonderfully implemented co-op, courtesy of Luigi, which I can confirm makes this among the best games for couples on the system specifically. I'll be the first to say that Danganronpa isn't for everyone. It's a pseudo-visual novel series about solving murder mysteries in similar vein to Ace Attorney that doesn't shy away from heavy themes, gore, and, for lack of a better term, anime-isms. But if you can handle all that, This trilogy of games in the Danganronpa Decadence collection really is quite the treat. You've got 18 different cases to solve, often with interesting twists and strange dynamics to them, spread across 3 different games, each of which has an overarching mystery to untangle, as well as a unique cast of very distinct characters for you to get attached to, just in time for them to be ripped away from you one by one. So yeah, a real good time, clearly. If you own a Nintendo console, there is a good chance Mario Kart is one of the principal reasons why. And that's for good reason. It's approachable, action-packed, with skill being rewarded while also lack of skill isn't punished thanks to items. All this with short and snappy matches that are perfect for a party setting. And honestly, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the definitive Mario Kart experience. Once you account for the Booster Course DLC, the game has a whopping 96 tracks, with relatively few duds among them. The item balance is just about right, and the character selection is, pretty good. To be frank, even if you're Switch 2 owner, I mean, I know you have Mario Kart World already, but there's still a decent argument to be made that you should have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe as well, or maybe even instead. And now for the polar opposite of Mario Kart. Chants of Sennaar is a beautiful puzzle adventure game all about language. As you climb the totally not Tower of Babel, you encounter many different cultures, each with their own language you have to decipher from scratch. And therein lies the puzzle. Using context clues found throughout the floors of this tower, you have to piece together the meanings of the symbols representing these languages, and use the information gleaned from those translations to progress onwards. It's a delightful brain teaser, and just the sort of game that's great to have on the go to mull over during the less stimulating parts of your day. Kirby and the Forgotten Land was a long time coming. About 25 years after most of his contemporaries got their 3D debuts on the Nintendo 64, Kirby finally got his on the Switch. And boy, was it worth the wait. Because it's basically everything I ever wanted out of a 3D Kirby game. Some game series twist themselves into knots when making the jump to 3D. Just compare Super Mario 64 to Super Mario World to see how drastic that change can be. But not Kirby. Kirby and the Forgotten Land is actually a shockingly faithful conversion of the modern Kirby formula into a 3D game. I haven't made a whole video on that topic. Which is great because that's a great formula, and now we can experience all that fun, suction-based ability copying gameplay in the full freedom of a 3D world. With, of course, the standard cute, with hints of the Eldritch if you look too closely theming that Kirby specializes in. And to make things even better, it's getting a new campaign on Switch 2, which I am certainly looking forward to. What is there to say about Skyrim that hasn't been said in the last decade and a half? It's one of the most accessible Western RPGs you can find. It was at the tip of the spear of the open world games trend of the 2010s, and still stands today as basically the platonic ideal of an open world fantasy RPG. Are its individual systems the best out there? No, not by a long shot, but Skyrim is perhaps the quintessential example of the whole being greater than the sum of its parts. At the end of the day, this game has magic to it that's difficult to capture. It presents a world in some ways perfect for role-playing and immersion. It gives you enough detailed hooks to give you something to latch onto, but leaves enough vague or implied for you to fill the gaps. Go anywhere in Skyrim and there's sure to be some sort of exciting quest waiting for you. And who knows, maybe eventually you'll finally beat the game. Or not, maybe you'll just spend the whole time just doing side missions. Regardless, an excursion into the frosty wilderness of Skyrim is sure to be a good time. When I first heard of Balatro, I was skeptical. A poker roguelike deck builder? Really? Guess the indie game scene is really starting to scrape the bottom of the barrel for game concepts. Then I played it and realized that actually Localthunk had just rolled a whole new barrel into the party. Where Balatro truly succeeds is in boiling down roguelikes as a genre to their essence. This is a game that's all about synergies. That and probability. There's no platforming or shooting gameplay to distract you. This is a game that's all about building your run by fixing your deck and getting a whole bunch of cool jokers. The familiar starting place of poker hands then serves to make it all the more approachable. I mean, everyone knows what a flush or full house is, right? Now enjoy watching those chokers shower chips and molt upon you whenever you make one. Additionally, the relatively short runs, chill gameplay, and transparent game state make it perfect for portable play. Slay the Spire in large part scratches the same itch as Balatro. Just replace assembling poker hands with a tense, deep, turn-based combat puzzle. Slay the Spire is just as compelling in the deck building and synergy assembling department as Balatro, but in my opinion outshines it due to the actual execution of your plans. Every turn forces you to adapt based on what you've drawn, what you're likely to draw, and what your enemies are planning. And with health being such a valuable and finite resource, each encounter, even if you're not at risk of dying, nevertheless becomes a tense exchange where wringing every last advantage out to end the fight with just a few extra health points could make all the difference. So come, face the Spire and bask in the highs of perfectly orchestrated strategies toppling your foes in spectacular fashion, the thrills of just barely scrounging together enough firepower to fight another day, and the lows of hubris delivering you yet another lethal blow. I was expecting a crazy story full of twists and turns with a cast of colorful characters when I booted up the 100-line Last Defense Academy. And I got that. What I was not expecting was legitimately one of the more interesting tactical RPGs I've played from a gameplay perspective as well. And I got that too. Seriously, forget the boring old unit classifications of swordsmen, archers, and cavalry, and say hello to, well, yeah, an all-around decent swordsman, admittedly, but also a sniper who's only effective if she doesn't move, an extremely mobile truck ready to give your other units the benefits of mechanized infantry, a battlefield engineer specializing in building and maintaining fortifications, a sadist with a whip that deals low damage but inflicts devastating status effects upon your foes. And that's just scratching the surface. In this game, every one of your units is completely different from each other, and yet they all serve a valuable purpose in your squad, such that as you lose them for a mission, or worse, you really feel it. And without the ability to choose who's deploying where in each of these multi-front battles, you're constantly having to make do with maybe not ideal, but certainly interesting combinations of allies on each front. All this is of course on a backdrop of spicy interpersonal drama and a hanging air of mystery and paranoia, making for an all-around extremely compelling experience. And that's even before getting into the quite clever way they've handled their numerous altered paths through the game, and how exactly you go about replaying it. But I'll leave that for you to discover for yourself. There was a bit of controversy around this game when it came out. It's worse than emulators, it sucks that it's a limited print run, it should have had Galaxy 2. But honestly, looking at it objectively, Super Mario 3D All-Stars is clearly one of the best games on the system. On one Switch cartridge, you've got access to two of the best 3D platformers of all time, and Super Mario Sunshine. I mean, let's break it down. You've got Super Mario 64, trailblazer for 3D platformers as we know them today, and it's not just some history museum. Graphically, it's dated, sure, but gameplay-wise, it actually holds up remarkably well. I mean, Super Mario 3D All-Stars was my first experience with it, and I had an incredible time. Then you have Super Mario Galaxy, a majestic voyage through the stars, bringing Mario face-to-face with some of his most creative worlds and tightly designed levels, with a soundtrack that, in my opinion, still has not been topped by another Mario game. And then there's Super Mario Sunshine, which has, pretty fun movement controls and a decent theme. All joking aside, it's still a pretty good game, it's just not really even on the same level as the other two in the package, unfortunately. But that just speaks to how good of an overall package it is. And honestly, if the choice is this or Odyssey, well, I think the choice is pretty clear. Fire Emblem Three Houses is by far the Nintendo Switch game I have played the most on my own time, so not for a video. And it's not because I'm a huge Fire Emblem fan. Three Houses is the first Fire Emblem game that I have ever played, but this game is something special. For me, it's one of those rare games that looms large over a period of my life as an experience that I got thoroughly absorbed in, played almost any time I had the chance, and was at least thinking of when I wasn't playing. I mean, where do I start? The strategic gameplay is fantastic, deftly picking apart your foe's armies by maneuvering your units across the battlefield to advantageous positions, and striking methodically, orchestrating your units together to magnify their strengths and mitigate their weaknesses. It never gets old. I especially get absorbed in the tension between most effectively winning the battle versus setting yourself up with regards to XP distribution and weapon durability to win the war. And as for that bigger picture stuff, what can I say? I'm a sucker for highly mechanically customizable characters, and this game has such opportunities in spades. Choose who's in your A-team, what abilities, weapons, proficiencies, and classes they'll have, and then use your intimate knowledge of how you've molded each of your students to crush your foes. And speaking of your students, the cast is delightful and fun to watch bounce off each other, which you'll get plenty of opportunities to witness in the sport conversations. And as you get attached to them, the game executes its most devious trick, pivoting from a mostly mystery-based plot engagement on your first playthrough to full-on Greek tragedy on your subsequent playthroughs. In case you couldn't tell, we are at the point in this list where we are not just talking about some amazing Switch games. We are now at the point where I'm gushing about some of my favorite games of all time. And we've got one more coming up. I wonder if you can guess what it is. But first, I'd like to make a few honorable mentions of games I considered for this list but couldn't quite bring myself to put on. First, I'd like to mention Unicorn Overlord and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. These are both long RPGs that I've played a fair bit of and have enjoyed every second of as much as anything else on this list. But I personally haven't gotten far enough in either of these games for me to feel justified ranking them on this list. Still would wholeheartedly recommend them though. My other honorable mention is for Princess Peach Showtime. I had a delightful time with this game, but for me it wasn't as compelling an experience as anything else on this list. However, I'm going to recommend it because I do think it's an amazing entry-level game. It's relatively easy and serves up a great variety of different gameplay styles within it, so I think it is a phenomenal game for younger children, or even just anyone who's not super into video games. This is a great place to start, and depending on which gameplay modes speak the most to you, might inform what you want to try next. But anyway, on to number 1. Eight years later, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is still one of one. There is not another game on the market that does what it does better, even its sequel. Sure, Tears of the Kingdom has more bells and whistles, I think even literally, but Breath of the Wild has focus and elegance. And what's it focused on? Delivering the most satisfying organic open-world exploration available in video games. In an era of open-world games that peppered your map with icons and said, go do this, go do that, Breath of the Wild took a step back, pointed at the horizon, and asked, what do you want to do? Anything look interesting out there? And the answer to that question was a resounding yes. Ooh, what's that? Or that? Or that? I know, because I went and investigated those things, but I am not telling you, because if by some miracle you've gone this long without getting spoiled about this game, just play it. Seriously, playing Breath of the Wild blind for the first time is just a magical experience and enthralling adventure that I'd never wish to rob anyone of. But seriously, I know people have films that they say they'd erase their memories just to be able to watch for the first time again. Now, personally, I'm not really sure I buy into that hypothetical in the first place. I mean, just messing around with your head like that feels risky. But if I were to indulge, getting to play Breath of the Wild fresh again would probably be my use for it. And so here's my pitch. If you're not in the position where achieving that end requires speculative sci-fi tech, take the plunge. It is truly the very best the Nintendo Switch has to offer. I hope you found this video helpful and or entertaining. If you did, be sure to subscribe because we are not just backwards looking here. We are looking to the future too, with a lot of upcoming Switch 2 based videos on the way. All of which is made possible thanks in part to my patrons who get access to these videos early. I'd like to thank them all, especially my $15 tier patrons, Alex Arkling and Ash Says. But anyways, until next time, I've been Supercraft and I'll catch you in the next video. Goodbye.